Hey guys, welcome back to more homeowner association stories. Imagine coming back from a relaxing vacation to find someone has turned your private cabin into a wedding venue, complete with guests, vendors and decorations everywhere. But here's the kicker: when you try to reclaim your own property, the HOA woman in charge calls 911 and tells police that you are the trespasser. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled HOA Karen Claims She reserved my cabin for a 100-guest wedding. So I own a rustic cabin on private land in a fairly rural area. It's not like a horror movie log cabin, it's modest but well put together and includes most modern amenities. So I'm not lighting candles to see, that kind of thing that some people think of when they hear wood cabin. This property has been in my family for longer than I'm actually sure. I know that this was not the first cabin built on the property by my family, I can say that much. In short, nobody lives in it full time, but I do own it and spend most holidays and weekends out here since I enjoy it and it's the best getaway from city life. I basically consider this my real home and the city as a second. One thing I want to make clear is that I am outside of the nearest HOA jurisdiction and nobody can tell me what to do with the land. I mean, outside of the government and state laws and things like that. But the HOA cannot get a say in the property, how I keep it or how I use it. However, that doesn't stop Karen from thinking that my cabin is just an extra special thing that exists just for her. So this person is on the nearby HOA's board and I don't think she understands the concept of a boundary line. Maybe her head is filled with air instead of a brain. I've heard about her bossing people around, making fake rules and just causing hell all around. I don't know too much about that since I'm not living here full time and I wanna just avoid drama every chance I can. I could have avoided Karen and her crap forever if it wasn't for her fixating on my cabin. So this was summer and I was at the cabin almost the entire time. I did go away for a week on holiday with some family, but I came back on Saturday. Everything was so pink, I felt like Barbie herself was coming down from her planet to invade me. I saw not only cars on my property, but Karen herself with a clipboard and ordering people around. I don't know what she was telling them to do, but I really didn't care. I wanted to put a stop to this crap now. Well, I didn't get the first strike since Karen saw me and opened her mouth before I could say anything. Karen said, "Excuse me, what are you doing here?" Me, my exact question. What are you and all of these things doing on my property? Karen, "I reserved this cabin this weekend for a wedding. You need to get out of here before the guests arrive." Me, "You cannot reserve the cabin. I own it and it's private property." Karen, "I have permission from the real owner. I have permits and everything right here." She points to her clipboard but refuses to actually show me the permits and permission, probably due to the fact that we both know it doesn't exist. Then she had the nerve to claim that I was trespassing and had to leave the wedding venue. I folded my arms and told her that I was not going anywhere. In fact, I told her that I was going right inside my cabin and gonna blast music as loud as I could. Hell, maybe I would even start taking down the decorations while I was at it. I wanted her to know that clearly I was the only person with a key to get inside the house and that I was not gonna let a wedding happen here. I then did demand that they leave, again giving her a chance to just admit defeat and leave. To find that her plan failed and thinking that maybe I wouldn't just end up showing up for the weekend. I mean, if they had the wedding on like a Tuesday, I wouldn't have ever known. Karen actually called the police on me then and with the biggest confidence said to them that she had a trespasser harassing her wedding guests, making sure to add that I looked dangerous, probably to get them to show up faster. Meanwhile, the guests that were already there looked beyond confused. Clearly, some of them really thought that Karen rented the cabin and I was there illegally. But the people that really started to sweat and worry seemed to be the wedding vendors. They started telling Karen that they wanted to see the rental contract again. Karen handed them something and they just pointed at it and started whispering among each other. They obviously only glanced the first time they saw it, not looking close enough to poke holes in it. I cannot imagine them seeing fakes often, so they probably just glanced the first time. I got their attention and showed them my title, deed and ID, showing that I owned the property. They started talking about taking their things back since they didn't want to get in the middle of this. Karen then screamed, "You shouldn't even be here. This is my event. The HOA board approved for 100 guests." Me, you also claim that you have permission from the owner, which is actually me. Karen, he's nothing but a squatter on an HOA cabin. Nobody believe him. The police did actually arrive, and Karen flagged them down. Again, she claimed I was a trespasser and trying to impersonate the real owner of the cabin. Well, I was calm and handed the officers my information so that they could go and look it up. Well, Karen didn't shut up though. She kept screaming that I was trespassing and the HOA really owned the cabin. The officers had to shout to be heard, but addressed both Karen and everybody there. Officers said, "This is private land and the owner wants everybody to leave now." The guests and vendors realized that Karen was lying to them and were quick to get out of there. Karen could have easily walked away with only a citation for trespassing, since she planned the entire thing, and she was not getting off with just a warning really. Not charges or anything extreme, but they wanted to give her a citation. The problem was that she just would not stop, ranting and raving and insisting that I needed to be arrested. That she was not going anywhere and to let everybody back. That the bride was gonna be here any minute and that I was lying. The officers warned her flat out that she had to calm down and leave or she was gonna end up being arrested. It was as if she could not even hear them, she just kept going and going like the damn Energizer bunny. She was arrested and taken into custody. They just wanted her off the property and given time to cool off. Then she would be given the citation and sent home. Well, without a venue, the wedding totally collapsed. I allowed vendors to come back on the property to remove things, and I guess somebody told the bride and groom since they never showed up. The bride was actually Karen's niece, I later found out. They were all furious, not at me thankfully. I could hear the vendors complaining too that they heard from Karen and were being told that she was refusing to pay them since the wedding didn't happen. I can smell some future trouble down the line for Karen if she ends up actually not paying them, and they even apologized to me. I told them it was not their fault, it was Karen's. They were angry at Karen for lying and ruining their day. I was just glad to reclaim my cabin and get to laugh at the fallout from it. Neighbors also talked about Karen and how she was taken away by the police. It was an embarrassment for her. The HOA from that point never came near me again. They had mostly left me alone before, but after what Karen pulled, I think they were afraid of me. I don't blame the rest of them, just Karen. She thought that she was gonna reserve my cabin, but the only thing she reserved was a police report and probably a file now. And yeah guys, if someone showed up and organized a wedding on your own private property without permission, what would you have done? Would you have gone further than OP? Let me know in the comments, and while you're at it, please don't forget to click the hype button and leave me a like if you wanna support me. The next one is a fantastic malicious compliance story that is titled "Don't Wanna Play? No problem." So I worked in computer security for a very long time. A security policy that I'm sure most of the audience here is familiar with is that you always lock your computer when you walk away. Even if you're an accountant or receptionist, you just cannot leave your machine unlocked ever. About 10 years ago, my team would have fun with this. If you ran to the bathroom or even had a conversation with your back turned, someone would sneak up to your computer and jump on the chat client or even email and say something silly or stupid like, "Does anyone know the meaning of life?" or some other random thing. A lot of the teams would do this, and it was mostly harmless, but was also supposed to shame you into remembering to lock your computer before you walk away without reporting you to security for your formal reprimand. Retraining means write-ups, disciplinary action, and job hunt. Everyone knew it was good-natured, and when the messages went out, everyone had a good laugh. One day, a new guy shows up and he leaves his computer unattended. I introduce myself, shake his hand, chat him up a bit, and finally tell him that he needs to lock his computer when he walks away. It is company policy. He probably ignored that in the training, but it's a big deal. Sent him the documentation because he thinks it is stupid. Again, we in the security umbrella. He says, whatever. I shrug, walk away, and he walks away making a show of not locking his computer. He got multiple warnings over his first few weeks from his team and other, but was a complete butt about it. After a while, the team decides he's had enough warnings and started being granted access to sensitive stuff, and so he was fair game. Not long after, I walked by him on his way to the elevator atrium, so I know he's gonna be gone for a while. I sat down, find his email client, and type out a silly message to his team's DL and hit send. As I'm standing up, he's walking back. He finds me and demands to know what I was doing. I shrug, say whatever, and walk away. Later that day, his manager walks up and tells me that he explained the situation to his new employee and that the new guy did not want to play that game and was considering reporting me to security for impersonating him. Damn, really? Okay, no problem. Mr. Manager, we were on very good terms. We will not play the game with your newbie. I will follow the standard procedures. So I got my team and a few others on chat to tell them that under no circumstances should anybody fire a message from him when they saw his computer unlocked. No shame reminders for newbies, just follow the standard procedure. Almost 50 security violation tickets were locked in the next 2 days. His desk happened to be closer to the elevator atrium, break room and bathrooms, so a lot of normal traffic. He was in security retraining the following Monday. We were in an open floor plan and I could see how mad he was talking to his manager and gesturing in my direction quite a bit. Not my fault, I had only opened 2 tickets. His manager asked me to let up. Sorry, just following standard procedure. If I don't report these violations, I'm liable. The dude's computer was locked for the rest of that Monday only. The following day as I walked by, there was his email for all eyes to see, and newbie nowhere to be found. He happened to be getting coffee, which was my destination as well, and I noticed that he forgot to lock his computer. He cussed me out and speed walked back, but the damage was done. He had already had a dozen tickets opened by others, and the security policy had changed at some point. Now it was a quick retraining and then straight to disciplinary action, no write-up. He had to attend a meeting with his boss, director, and some security folks. I would find out much later that he got put on a security-related PIP. He was gone in a week. No one was out to ruin anyone's career here, but if you want to work in security and flagrantly violate policy because I don't know why, well, you don't belong there. And yeah guys, if you've ever witnessed or inflicted malicious compliance on someone in your own life, please feel free to share your story in the comments, and while you're at it, please don't forget to leave me a comment anyway, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much, and the next one is a super interesting petty revenge story, and it is titled "Neighbor's Aggressive Dogs Kept Attacking Mine, so I Went Full Neighborhood Tattletale." For context, I have 3 dogs. I'm super conscious of being a responsible owner. If they bark outside, they are brought in immediately, and each one of them has been trained extensively in obedience. By the way guys, someone should also train those HOA Karens in obedience, because time and time again what we see from them is obviously not how they should be trained. Anyway, my neighbors also have 3 dogs. When they first moved in, they were shocked at how well trained mine were. I could tell it made them insecure because theirs were, and still are, out of control, reactive, and constantly barking. Just like my neighbors. So when they would see me address mine, they would tell me, "Don't do that, they're just being dogs and doing their job." Translation, they don't want to feel bad about their own dog's chaotic behavior. Now, my yard is fenced in with a vinyl picket fence, $8,000. They built their fence using mine as the 4th wall, which was not an issue, until one of their dogs started repeatedly trying to break through my fence to attack mine. I went above and beyond to avoid conflict and installed privacy backing on my fence and planted 15 boxwoods, $1,000 more, in an attempt to block the view so their dog would not go berserk. The neighbor's husband literally mocked me, saying, "That's not gonna work, they still hear each other." Spoiler, he was right. So after the extra financial investment and labor-intensive work of planting the bushes didn't work, I sent a polite, carefully worded text and asked that they prevent their dog from attacking my fence, as I was concerned it was gonna eventually break, offered solutions, emphasized safety, and said that I still wanted to maintain good rapport with one another. Their response? Play the victim and blame my dogs. Well, I started getting unhinged texts from the wife about how my message ruined her week and how stressful this is for them, and how I owed her an apology. Eventually, they put up a 6-foot privacy fence attached to mine, illegal height, but whatever, since they now hate me, I would prefer not seeing them, hence why I didn't report it to the town. Problem solved, right? Well, nope. They started letting their dogs off leash in the unfenced areas. I ended up getting security cameras installed, and thank God I did, because they caught everything on video. The same dog trying to break through my fence to attack my dogs, their other 2 running into my garden, and all of them running at large in the street where people walk constantly. After they started cursing me out when their dog tried attacking mine, I got the police involved, which infuriated her. The lieutenant himself told me to keep sending every clip and he would find them every single time. He was genuinely concerned about safety in the neighborhood after seeing my footage. Now for the petty revenge though, tonight I caught them on camera walking their dog in the wildlife refuge across the street. The dog poops, they don't pick it up. My neighborhood has a FB group where people constantly complain about mystery poop. So this time, instead of ignoring it, I sent the video to our community leader. He told me to post it publicly and also asked that I email every resident about their behavior. Done. Now the entire neighborhood knows that they are the scumbags who, number 1, let their dogs off leash, number 2, have an aggressive dog trying to attack others, and don't pick up after themselves. People even commented they've stopped walking on our block because they felt unsafe, and others said they always wondered who was leaving the piles all over. Even better though, our community leader also personally went over to shame them and said he would bring it up with the cops too. Power in numbers, baby. So tonight, instead of me being frustrated, they got called out publicly, shamed privately, and will likely get fined again soon. And I gotta sit back knowing every single word I said was backed by video evidence with no way for them to spin it. And yeah guys, if you own pets, please be a responsible pet owner, don't be like the people in this story. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. I spent years in big cities buying and trading stocks and other things for a decade until it basically burned me out. I had more than enough money to live off of for the rest of my life and decided that I didn't want to make millions of dollars only to die from a stress-induced heart attack or something like that. I was gonna enjoy and relax the latter half of my life. My kids were grown up, my wife was gone, and I just wanted to be happy. It took years to figure out that leaving that world I was in was needed in order for that happiness to be achieved. The most important thing was to get away from the city and all the noise. I found a nice neighborhood to live in where I could have a property not right on top of another one. I got the dog I always wanted and never had time for. The shelter could not be 100% sure what the breed was, but it was obviously some kind of golden mix. He loved running around the big lawn and watching TV with me. I was relaxing for the first time and I did not even pay much attention to the fact that there was an HOA in this neighborhood. I felt like if paying some HOA fees meant that I could live in this nice place, it was worth it. I had not been on the internet too much and did not see any of these horror stories. It was not until I told my son and he showed me this website and all of the things on it about HOAs and how they can be a real pain for people. Random side note, it also led me to finding some very nice and interesting things that helped me kick off some new hobbies. Amazing what is out there that I had no idea about. But back to my HOA. The HOA board members are the types of personalities that I'd seen plenty of during my years of working. No matter what these people had or got, it was never going to be enough for them. They fed off of money and power like it was an addiction. Once they got used to the dose they needed more in order to get that feeling back. They wanted to boast about themselves so much that I would get HOA pamphlets in the mail, and instead of them being about improvements to the neighborhood, they would just be about the board members themselves and how amazing they apparently are. And of course, these pamphlets would also show new rules that they put into effect, but they couldn't just list the rules, oh no, they had to talk about why they decided it was a rule and praise themselves more for their time and effort in coming up with it. None of the reasonings ever made sense and basically boiled down to them saying it would help the community as a whole, but without even once, not a single time, saying how it actually would help the community. Basically a trust me bro situation. And some of these rules were just insane, and there was no way a person was gonna manage to keep up with everything, and getting fined was just an inevitability. What I believe also happened that I couldn't prove for sure was that they were setting up rules for things they knew they could immediately fine a bunch of people for. Like when they banned lawn flamingos for looking tacky, it was obvious they were going to find the 5 or so homes that they had them before they would read the new rule and be able to do anything about it. Of course, all of this is leading up to when I got a fine in the mail for the very first time. Well, calling it a fine would seem so much less than what it was, but I can let you all be the judges of that. The letter said that I was being fined for my lawn not being green enough and for allowing my dog to run around on it, followed by another sheet of paper listing another fine regarding my car, claiming that I need to park it further into my driveway. The car is in my driveway but closer to the street end of it, and they want it closer to the garage end of it. Finally, the third letter was a note stating that I need to abide by the HOA laws, and if I don't follow the rules and pay my fines in a timely manner, then I might be happier looking for another neighborhood to live in. It was clear they knew I had money and were gonna try and milk me for it, but they were wrong. I did not take threats lightly, or lightly I guess, and the money was not the issue, but the principle that they couldn't just make up any rule they wanted and fine me for it. I did not want to start a big fight and instead went to try and calmly speak to them about the fines and how they were going a little bit overboard. Me, I get that you want things a certain way, but nothing I did actually violated anything. It's a heat wave, and grass is not something that can be 100% controlled unless it's AstroTurf. HOA, if you didn't let your mud run around, then it wouldn't be that way. Me, my dog is not making the grass less green, the heat is. As for my dog, you cannot fine me for that either, since I'm making sure he stays on my property and nowhere else. The same goes for my car, since I'm not parking in the street or blocking anything. HOA, okay listen, you're not the first one to think that they can get out of a fine. My suggestion is to pay for it because you don't want to have this go to court. We have put liens on houses for unpaid debts and we can do it again. Me, you can try to do whatever you want, but I promise that it won't end well for you. I did not actually mean to threaten them like that, but it just came out after being spoken down to by them. I left and didn't pay the fines, only for more to come in. Soon, I was being fined for every small thing they considered to be out of place. My bins being out a little too long? Fined. My dog barking because he was excited? Fined. I was collecting a nice stack and did not pay for a single one. They were attempting to make my life absolutely miserable, and I was just wondering how I could get rid of them. It was clear none of the money was for making this place better, and they just wanted to be the big bullies having all the power and soaking in it. I looked into and spoke to a lawyer about how one could get rid of an HOA, and the easiest way was to get a majority vote for it to be disbanded. The problem was that people were so scared of them and the fines that they didn't want to go against them. I understood that and figured out there was another way to get what I wanted, while also showing them that they were not as all-powerful and controlling as they believed. One thing about this neighborhood I didn't mention until this point was that it was newer and not all of the properties had been sold yet. In fact, there were a good number with the houses still being built. I called up my real estate agent and told him that I wanted to find out how many properties within the HOA were for sale and if it would be enough to make me a majority owner. Turns out there was enough, but I would need to purchase 50 properties in order to do so. Not exactly how I expected to spend my money when I retired, but I started the process of buying everything up like it was a weird game of Monopoly. I made sure all of the ownership was under a company name instead of my own, so the HOA would not know what I was up to. It just looked like from the outside some wealthy company wanted to buy all the properties and then sell them for more once the houses were done. Sadly, a thing that does happen in life, and for a profit I disagree with the practice, I waited patiently until the next public HOA meeting, which I attended and made myself not stand out while I listened to them. A meeting would be a stretch of the word because it was similar to those pamphlets that they handed out. It was them praising themselves for keeping the neighborhood clean and people in order. Once they finally stopped long enough to ask if there was other business before they would send everybody home, was when I finally stepped forward. Me, I'm here to open a vote to disband the HOA totally. HOA, you cannot do that. Me, well actually it states in the bylaws that at any meeting, any member is allowed to open to a vote the continuing status of the HOA. HOA, are you really dumb enough to think that people are gonna side with you about this? There aren't even enough voting members present. You cannot win a vote. Me, that is where you are wrong. I have a full list here of properties within the HOA in my ownership. If you count them, you can see that I'm the majority holder and I have enough in my single vote to control it. The HOA board was fuming and started screaming that I couldn't do that and that they wouldn't allow it. They could not legally stop it from happening though, and I had full control at that point to do whatever I wanted. The first being making all outstanding fines voided, and the second being getting rid of the HOA as a system. The now ex-members of the board tried and failed to threaten me because at this point they had zero power and I could almost hear the air coming out from their deflating egos. They were humiliated having this happen in front of a huge crowd of people. They told me that this would not stand and they would sue me, but I never heard from any lawyers about it. I did not need 50 properties and sold them at the same value that I bought them for. It was not about making a profit, but about getting rid of the HOA that just wanted to hurt people to make themselves feel good. Nothing bad has happened from there not being an HOA anymore, and instead people seem more relaxed and at ease than before. And the next one is gonna be a super funny petty revenge story. This one is titled, Careful on What Food You Steal. So back in the early 2000s, I worked for Hooters as a manager. We had this old dude that was funny as hell. One day he played a little prank. He made what looked like blondie or peanut butter squares that were made from the flour that was filtered out of the frying oil. And yes, we filtered the oil every night. There was always a layer of cooked flour and we would toss it out. Like clockwork, one person would grab one, take a bite, then spit it out. Fast forward 10 years, I'm now working in sales/customer service at a large cable/internet company. We had about 300 people total in this office and I worked the second shift. There were maybe 50 people on this shift and every night someone would take my food. I wanted to teach them a lesson. First I wanted to make brownies with laxatives baked in. My roommate stopped me though and said if the person got really sick or harmed they might fire me, so that's when it hit me. The fry oil blondes. Or blondies? I'm not sure. So I went up to the store to get the things I needed to make Hooters-style wings. I think we made 30 or 40 wings that night in my little tabletop fryer. I let the oil cool down a bit, started to filter the oil to make my blondies. The next night I took them to work. My desk was close to the break room where the refrigerator was. 2 hours into my shift I found out who was the thief. It was one of the quality service managers. She was hacking and spitting all over the floor, demanding to know who tried to poison her. I could not control my laughter anymore. She saw me and went to my manager. He took me into an office and asked what I thought was funny. When I explained to him what I had done, he was trying to stay professional, but he actually cracked. After he found out it was not poison and she had brought this on herself, he told me to go back to work. She was written up for taking someone else's food and I told everyone what happened. She left the company a few months later. Crazy, my food never got touched after that. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. I now need to go watch the new season of Dexter and I will see you again tomorrow. Also, please click that hype button if you haven't already. It is free and helps me tremendously.